Serving their community is who they are because they love where they live. REMAX 3D Real Estate is proud to bring you Heart of Farmersville, a video series dedicated to celebrating all the wonderfully great things about Farmersville, Texas. On every episode, Dennisha Denney will share Farmersville's story through the stories of the people who call Farmersville home. This is Heart of Farmersville.
Thank you so much for watching Heart of Farmersville. I am so excited for you to get to meet Marty Garza. He's the owner of 12 Stories, the coffee shop located in downtown Farmersville. He has such a cool story, and I cannot wait for you to hear it. Here's my conversation with Marty. Hey y'all, I'm Dennisha Denney, your host of Heart of Farmersville, and today we're sitting down at 12 Stories, and I am so excited about our very first episode here in Farmersville. We have the owner of 12 Stories, Mr. Marty Garza. How are you today, Marty?
I'm doing so good. So happy to be here. Thanks.
Thank you so much for agreeing to come on the show, but also for allowing us to shoot our shows here in your coffee shop.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. We love the community here, and it's going to be fun seeing just more stories and more people come through. And for me to be able to have a chance to even get to know them more and hear their stories as well.
That's awesome. So our show is about telling people's story in the community. And so we want to share people's stories that live here, work here, that love Farmersville. So I think it's so cool that the name of your coffee shop is 12 Stories. So let's start with that. I want to talk about the coffee shop, but when we get through this, I want people to know who Marty is as well. So how did the name come about, and tell us how you got to Farmersville?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm also going to just kind of take a couple steps back and kind of get in, and it's all like one big story, if you will, because everything is so connected. But so I actually have a business partner, another owner named David Hayes, phenomenal guy. And he actually is the one who started another business called Coffee Experience. And so Coffee Experience is a portable coffee bar that was started completely by accident. We had like these special ways that we do coffee, where it's called a pour over, where we hand pour the water of the coffee beans and stuff like that. It's a very intricate way to do coffee. It's fun. It's engaging. But the reason why he even learned how to do that was just another friend showed him, and so they wanted to share that knowledge and that experience with some other friends at a Halloween party. And so they took the setup to a Halloween party, and people loved it. They poured coffee for 3 hours straight.
Oh, wow.
And they're just asking, like, how do we get you at an event? What's your company called? And they're like, wait, we can make money off of this? And then so they started doing events, and they started doing the portable stuff. And then I came on pretty early on that end, came into ownership with David on that side of the business. And one of the first weddings we ever did was actually the Mathers, who owned this building. And so David and I, we grow that portable side for about 5-6 years. And then the Mathers come back and like say, hey, we have this gorgeous building, and we want to put a coffee shop in Farmersville. And so our initial response was, where the heck is Farmersville? So it was like we were living in Fort Worth, didn't know anything about Farmersville or anything like that. But we, David came here first. He's like, man, this place has charm. I love it. And then the first time I came here, it was awesome. It was such a cool experience. We came over here, checked out the building. It was looking rough. It was not in a good shape. But as soon as you walked in, you immediately saw the like what it could be and the potential. And it was like, oh my gosh, these floors, these walls, the just everything about it was like, this is going to be such a cool shop. And then we left here, went to Jalapenos, the local restaurant here, and as we're coming out, there's a school bus that's on its way of the volleyball team that's about to go to state or something like that, and the whole town is out and like celebrating them and stuff like that. It was such a cool like small town experience that you see like on TV shows or something like that, and it was like, this town is so fun. And
it's magical, actually.
It is. It's like you come to the town, and I still remember my first experience. It's like, where am I? Like, what Hallmark movie set did I just walk into?
Oh my goodness, that is exactly what I have said about Farmersville.
It's crazy.
Yes.
It's so fun. And then like
so charming.
Like during the holidays and stuff like that and whatnot, I was like, oh my gosh, this town is so cute. Like I love this town so much. And so we wanted to put a coffee shop in here, and so it became one of those things like, how do we put a coffee shop in Farmersville when we all live an hour and a half away? And by the third visit, I just really felt like this was supposed to be the next step for Sierra and myself. And so I went home that night to my wife, and I was like, listen, I got a crazy idea. Because at this point, she was totally against putting a coffee shop in Farmersville because we lived an hour and a half away.
Right.
It's like, what if we moved to Farmersville? And she was like, yeah, let's do it. And so I was like, okay.
Wow.
So we looked at things and we made sure that we could do it, and it just continued to feel right. Things were falling into place. And so November of 2018 is when we moved. I'm sorry, 2019. November 2019 is when we moved to Farmersville. And then March 14th, 2020 is when the coffee shop opened. And
Which also happened to be the beginning of the shutdown for COVID.
Yes. Yeah, it's been. And
so tell us about that. What was that experience like? You just moved, you and your wife, here to Farmersville,
Yeah.
and you've opened a coffee shop at the very beginning of a global pandemic. What was going through your mind?
Honestly, and so because we just hit our 1 year, and so
Congratulations, by the way.
Thank you.
That's
Yeah,
so awesome.
it was fun. March 14th. Yeah, it was just a few days ago at this point that we're doing the recording, but. Man, it was the night before we celebrated our 1 year. I was in downtown late, and I came here and just kind of sat for a sec, just because it was actually like I was actually in that chair that I just kind of sat down and just like the shop was way closed, like there's nobody in here, and just recognizing the things that I was kind of processing a year ago of like I'm about to open up a shop, like holy crap, here we go, like. What is this going to mean? And there was kind of like words and kind of like things about a pandemic coming, but I think none of us really knew what it meant.
Right.
And then just hearing things kind of unravel as they go, and so like they said no groups over 100, and I was like, okay, this is kind of weird. We'll be okay. It's fine. It's cool.
Right.
And then it was the 10 people or less. It was like, how the heck are we going to operate? And then it hit the curbside delivery only. It was like, what are we doing? And so there was a lot of doubt. There was a ton of doubt at that time of like, did we make the right decision? Are we in the right place? Did we make the right move? Was this the right time? Was opening a coffee shop even a good idea? The feelings that I had wrong? And so there was a ton of doubt and emotions and a lot of it wasn't a lot of security, really.
Right.
And a lot of just confusion, really, is
Right.
what it all came down to.
Well, you just made a huge investment financially and moved your family, and then the unknowns. It was so much of the unknowns.
A crazy unknown.
So what do you think got you through it?
So a few things. One, the team that we had. So unfortunately, we had to let go of our baristas because we didn't qualify for any of the PPP loans or anything like that because we opened so late. Most of the loans you had to be opened by February 15th. We opened by March 14th, and so most of those loans we didn't qualify for or those grants and stuff like that. So we had to let go of our baristas. So really, it was left between me, my wife, and my business partner David, and another gentleman named Ashton who kind of filled in here and there, and so who was great. Pinnacle to the team getting started. He's not part of the team anymore, but did a great job at the beginning for us. But he and we just bunkered down and just did it, and like we filled in the gaps and we filled the shifts, and it was just mostly Sierra and I that were working every single shift every single day. So I think it was that like we got it, like we're going to do this thing.
Right.
The other thing was like our landlords were super generous with us those first 3 months, and they like, don't worry about things. Like, you guys just take care of yourselves, make sure you guys survive. And they were just like they were wonderful for that.
Wow,
The
what a
Mathers were huge blessing. The Mathers
Yes.
really blessed us during that time. But then also, and this just goes back to what I love about Farmersville was the community. We had people coming in who would just come in extra for coffee just because they wanted to see us survive. We had one person come in, spent like $10 worth of stuff, but then gave us like $100 tip just to make sure that like we made do that day. And so
That's so incredible.
it was, and those moments were super encouraging. It was like, okay, we're going to be okay. We're going to be okay. It almost like those little moments almost was like breath of like, Okay.
That was that hope.
Yes,
It gave you hope.
exactly.
And sometimes you just needed it for the moment or for the day, and sometimes
Exactly.
it's enough to get you through the week. And so were those the kinds of things you were thinking about when you were sitting in this chair a few days ago, reflecting?
It was. And also just kind of where we want to go and where we want to be and like where we're going to be next year and then the year after that. And so it was like a reflection of like the past year, but it was also another reflection of like the fun things that are to come, you know,
Yes.
and because I really feel like we're kind of as a shop kind of making a pivot moment where we're kind of going from a survival mode to more of a thriving mode.
Yes.
Which I think is the dream of everybody. Where I heard a quote one time. I'm probably gonna butcher it because I didn't have it ready in my mind yet, but it was basically when you're surviving, you can't dream, and
Oh, that's so true.
it's so meaningful, and it's just like, oh my gosh, it's so like when you're just in a moment where you're just like trying to like just take everything at one time and just kind of holding on to the small things and stuff like that, you don't have time to just sit back and just like dream what it can be. And so up until the point of the pandemic, we had so many dreams and so many ideas of what it can be and stuff like that. And then it was like, just kidding, we're just gonna survive now. And it was and so every week had its own challenge, or every day had its own challenge, and both mentally, physically, and financially. And so we weren't able to put money aside and be like, this is for things that we want to do. And so being able to see the shift that's coming and being able to be like, okay, now we can like actually like do the things that we're passionate about, the things we want to dream about, the things that we're excited about. It's exciting. It's an exciting time that we get to start dreaming again. It really.
I
And
love
so-
that so much. You know what? And you're going to appreciate everything from here on out.
Yeah,
Because
it's true.
you survived. I mean,
Yeah.
it developed a grit inside of you that you and your wife and your business partner would have never obtained
Yeah.
had you not gone through the last 12 months.
It's true. That is a good point. And it's and I think it's one of those things, and people have said is that like, what if you can survive this, you can survive anything. I was like, I hope so.
Amen.
Yeah.
Yes. I can attest to that. That's how I felt. I opened my real estate office in the middle of the recession back in
Okay.
2009, in January of
Yes,
2009.
I remember that.
And I'm like,
Jeez.
people are like, you're crazy to open a real estate office. Like the printer company, I needed a printer for the office.
Yeah.
You could only pay cash. They would not finance it. They're like, real
my
estate companies
gosh.
aren't going to make it. Sorry, if you want a printer, you can pay cash for it. So I said, I'll pay cash for it. And that's what I did. But what it has done for me from that point is that I've been able to go through all types of storms and know I can make it. Because
Yeah.
I always felt like if I survived the recession, I could survive just about anything.
Yeah.
And that's exactly where you are. You have survived the first year of being in business with the global pandemic. And so now you get to go and do those dreams and see where the future takes you guys. I want you to share with everyone, how did you come up with the name 12 Stories?
Yeah. So we were, that was one of the hardest decisions we had. Was trying to figure out a name. Like we went through so many name revisions and stuff like that. I think that we were trying to like, the name was one of the last things we landed on. I think we were about a month out and we still didn't have a name. Like it was like that. It was that bad. Like we just couldn't come up with something because we wanted something that was relational, something that like when people saw it, it like promoted like a relation there. Like there was something that was like a comfort, some relatability to it, but also prompted some level of mystery as well, some level of curiosity. At the same time, did something that that had like a deeper meaning or something that we could like really like promote and get behind. And lastly, something that just kind of fit with the town, something that fit in Farmersville. And so because, our heart and our dream is that whenever, if we ever open up the next shop, there will only be 12 stories. And that 12 stories will always be Farmersville's type thing. And so we're just kind of going back and forth and kind of like understanding like, okay, trying to go through it and stuff like that. And so again, a month out, and I started working on the training for our baristas. And one of the things that we created years ago with Coffee Experience is actually David, my business partner, created. He created 12 core values. And the 12 core values are things that we as owners really held on to because those are our foundation. But how do we inspire people with these 12 words that don't really mean anything to them? And so as I'm sitting there going through the training, I'm like, what if we had 12 stories that inspire these core values? And then I was like, 12 stories. I kind of like that.
Yeah.
And so I text my business partner. I was like, hey, dude, what do you think about 12 stories? And we were kind of chewing on it. And it just, the more we chewed on it, the more we fell in love with the name. And it, you know, created that, you know, everyone has a story, everyone, but it also like, what are 12 stories? Like what, like such an odd name. And then just the idea, like when we picture like Farmersville and stuff like that, we picture just like, you know, a place with a lot of history and a lot of stories and a lot of just depth to it.
Yes.
And so it just like the pieces just kind of fell into place, and we're just like, yes, okay, this is it. Let's go with this. And so, we're actually going to be doing a social media push here soon to go through all of them, go through all the stories, and go through all the core values. But just kind of give a little bit some examples though. So like one of them is so some of them are historical people. Like for instance, this gentleman named Gaudi, who's an architect for the Barcelona Cathedral. And so when he got brought in to design the cathedral, he was so detailed with his work that they were like, "Hey man, you're gonna die before you finish." And his words was that this is not for me anyways. And so even 100 years after his death, they're still working on the details of his work. And so he promotes the word excellence for us. And then we have some like that are a little bit more whimsical, like humility is A.A. Milne, the author of Winnie the Pooh. And so those are kind of fun, but then we have some that are like just really personal to us. For instance, the word service is actually my business partner's late father. And it's just like so that one's like really personal to us, just because he did so much service to the shop, to the business, as well as to the just the people around him. Just knew him as a man who served and loved very well. So, and then of course we have 9 more of those that I could go through, but it will probably take a minute, and I may not remember all of them. So
I can't wait to see that come out and be able to see and hear all of those. And you know, when I walked in the first time, I was like, I'm not in Farmersville. That it's so incredible. Just you walk into the front part and, you know, and greet it. And then you walk to the back part, which is where we're sitting today. And there's just something special about this place. You come in and you sit down and you know, you're usually meeting someone or you're bringing your laptop and coming in here to work. And the name comes to me a lot, the 12 stories, because a lot of times you're here sharing stories.
Yes.
You're sharing about your life with someone else and sharing your journey. And so I think you've captured that well with how you've designed it, which just for a second, how did you come up with the decor and the design? I love it.
yeah. So we love the 1920s and Art Deco vibe. We love when we look back at just pictures and history of that. Even just like the pop culture movies of like Great Gatsby and stuff like that. You see this like just this overwhelming feeling of just excitement and like a party and just everybody's welcome, everyone's having a good time, and so we love no respecters of person, stuff like that. So like for instance, let's continue with the pop culture Gatsby that they had. Like, one of the things that they talk about is that like you had when you went to the parties, like it was like all people were welcome. Yes. You had the politicians, you had just the normal people, whatever. You just had all these people come together, and we love that aspect of what it did, but also like it was no person was left out of the glamour in a sense. Like
yes.
everybody almost like had a grasp on that, and we loved just the heart and the push for just exploration and excellence that the 1920s had. So there's a lot of that time frame that just really inspires, and plus it just looks pretty. It just the gold and the curves yes. and the
it was perfect for 2020.
Yeah, it was.
Also.
It was, and it's just like they knew what they were doing, and yes. And so, but we also enjoy kind of the darker space and like the back room where it's kind of like, okay, like yes, you want those like those moments where like there's a lot of people and the parties, but also the intimacy. And we love the parlor feel that they also had, and like the kind of relaxed vibe and the chill vibe where conversations can be had and personal relationships can be developed and stuff like that. And so while it seemed like a lot of the 1920s was go, 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 they also left moments. It was right before like communication was super vast, and so there was still a lot of intimacy that was going on in conversations and relationships and stuff like that. So it was kind of that pinnacle moment where it was like a lot of stuff was happening, but at the same time, people still weren't taking advantage of the personal side of the culture.
Right.
And so so there's and then
You've done a lot of research on that and
we love
studied
it.
that.
It's fun. It's there's a book that we love. It's called The Man That Nobody Knows by Bruce Barton, who's actually another one of our big people, and it was actually a really big inspiration behind this place of just because we look at that time frame, and he goes into the discipleship and the mentorship of the time change that was happening, and not basically challenging people not to lose sight of those things. Very inspirational for his time, and it still is. But yeah, it's fun for us. It was a fun time for us, and this is a fun space for us. And the design, the landlords did an amazing job designing it and whatnot, and it was fun. It was a good time.
It's awesome. Okay, Marty, I said I wanted people to get to know you.
Yeah.
And just in listening to you talk right now, you have such a heart for people. You have such a heart to serve. And you have such a heart for a deeper meaning in life. And you don't seem to be living life in a surface way. Where did that come from?
Oh, that's a good question. Wow. So, man. Yeah, so I think that there's always been something that's kind of stirred in me for people. So prior to actually opening the shop, I was actually a full-time pastor at the church, and actually my business partner is a pastor as well. And so I think it's just that natural desire that the Lord kind of gives us to want to love on and cherish and serve people. I don't really have any other answer than that. So I mean, because my family is very does back in San Antonio does a very good job loving on people and serving people and stuff like that, and like welcomes people to the house, and on holidays if there's a random friend or whatnot, like they do a very good job of like hey, yeah, you're part of the family, come on in, and type thing.
That.
And so I think a lot of that has to do with it as well. But honestly, one of the things that I love seeing for people happen is the fulfillment in their lives, even in the short period of time. We've seen several people like either interview and then like know they had a really cool opportunity, or we've had several people like come in, and especially with the pandemic, we had to like go to those 4 baristas, and then we saw them thriving in other areas, or they moved on to other spots, and seeing them thriving like that excites me.
Yes.
And so I think that seeing people thrive in their moments and in their places is also just something that gets me excited as well. Because like this right here, this place is absolutely like my fulfillment and like my purpose to be able to love on people here, and to see other people find their purpose and their fulfillment is just so exciting. It's
so exciting.
It's so cool to see people like in their elements.
And you're getting to continue your ministry as
absolutely.
a pastor by pouring into people and helping people find their purpose and mission in life. So what inspired you to be a pastor, and how long were you a pastor?
So I was, it was, I would say it was something that was pretty early on in my life. I mean, my grandma talks about moments where like I was at the pool, and I was telling this little kid about Jesus, like I was like 7 or something like that.
Aww.
And so, and it was something that like my grandmother did a huge part of, just kind of like stirring that in me and stuff like that and whatnot. And so for the longest time, I thought that I was going to be a full-time pastor for forever, basically. And so I was in that ministry for, time. I'm trying to think. At least 4 or 5 years or something like that.
Okay.
Because I started off as just like an interim, and then I began to increase and stuff like that. And so, and full transparency, I'm just gonna let the whole world know on this one. It was actually I was actually let go from that position, from that role in August of 2018. And it wasn't something that my wife and I expected. It wasn't something that we were seeing. But what it left was a moment where it's like, okay, what do I do now?
Right.
And so, because it definitely left a lot of emotions and like a lot of like just uncertainties and stuff like that. And And so I was just like, all right, so should I go look for another ministry position? Should I go do all this? And so again, August 2018 was I had the portable coffee side, but it was just a side project. It wasn't like a full-time gig, it wasn't a full-time gig at the side. And so anytime we got like big events, like it was just extra money I'd put towards savings or paying off loans or whatever. And so the February before that August, it was a very slow month. And I made $7 from the coffee business total. That's it. Yeah.
$7.
$7. Yeah. The entire month. Yeah. Yeah. And so, but again, it wasn't a big deal because I had the full-time position at the church. And so August comes, I'm sitting there. I'm like, what the heck do I do? And I just really felt oppressed to go coffee full time. And I was like, wait, like $7 doesn't pay for rent.
Yeah.
It does, and so
that 7 kept haunting you, didn't it?
It did. It was like $7. But just really felt like that was what I was supposed to do. And so so took the leap and started doing it. And my business partner probably thought I was crazy too. But he was like, all right, man, let's figure this out. We'll do this. And so and then it wasn't until the end of November, I believe, that we started catching wind of the coffee shop. And it was just an amazing, incredible transition that just would have never expected. And then later on that year, we started doing events that began to just like crazy launch our business. We started doing events in catering rooms for American Airlines Center and Toyota Music Factory. And so like those were like weekly events that were all day.
Wow.
And we started seeing more opportunities just kind of come down the road that if I was also still at the church, there's no way I would have been able to balance the two. And so,
did you know when you got laid off? And that's such a hard thing to go through.
Yeah, it was. It was tough.
But did you know God had a greater purpose? Were you holding on to that, or was that a time that you kind of doubted that? Like, what was that moment like?
Yeah, for sure. There was definitely a time there where it's like when I sat down and I kind of took a step back, I knew that we were going to be taken care of. Like I knew that it was going to be okay, and I knew that even if that meant that I was going to go and have to do some like labor-intensive work that was not part of my initial desire or dream and stuff like that, like we weren't going to not eat. We weren't not going to be okay because I'll do personally whatever I need to do to make sure that we have rent and we pay the bills and stuff like that. Like whatever job's out there that's open, I'm going to take it.
Right.
And so, but it just became like, what am I supposed to do? Like what am I supposed to make happen in order for us to survive? And so I think that was the knowing that we're going to be okay was okay. But then knowing that the coffee was the answer, I think that was actually the biggest nerve, because yes, I was excited about it. Yes, I was really enjoying the coffee business, but still $7 was the hard part. And so even when I took that jump, trying to figure out the basically the plan there was also kind of difficult. But I think also like feeling that really heavily that this was to be the next step, I had to kind of lean on that and kind of be like, okay, we're going to be okay.
That's right.
And if anything, we're going to be better, because in my mind, there's no way this is going to work out. And that's how it's been. And and what's crazy is that so the day the shop opened, March 14th, if you look back on that day, was the day that they said no groups over 100. So essentially, the day that our shop opened was the day that events died.
Wow.
And so,
which is what you were doing.
Yeah.
Prior to that.
Exactly. That was my full-time gig.
Wow.
Like that was my only source of income, really. And so it was a perfect transition.
Like God had you all the way through that.
Yeah, exactly.
Every step of the way.
And you saw that transition of just resources and stuff like that. And so, looking at that grand picture, it's like, wow, this is cool. Like this is, but it still wasn't fun.
Right.
I don't want to go through a pandemic again. I'd much rather never do a pandemic ever again. But it is cool kind of looking back and kind of doing that year perspective and be like, this is cool. This is really awesome.
I love that. I love your story so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's just take a minute. I like for us to talk about what you love about Farmersville. And I know you've mentioned things along the way, but let's just take a minute and talk about what you love about Farmersville.
Yeah, it's been fun. So first off, I mean, the first thing you notice is just the aesthetic of the place and the vibe, and just you pull up and you see the red brick road and the white gazebo and the park, and like, just all these like old buildings, and it just becomes one of those things where it's like, this is a cool place. Like it, like just right off the bat, like it just looks cool. It looks homey, a Hallmark video type thing, and so it's so I love the aesthetic of the town. First off, I think that's the first part that kind of draws you in. But as soon as you go into these shops and into the restaurants, like it just like it kind of pulls you in even further, because it's like, okay, this is completing the picture of like a small town feel, and the people here and the relationships, and that everyone knows everybody, and everyone's kind of helping each other out. And that was also really big on the pandemic, that I forgot to mention, is that part of our survival was being able to partner with Bottles and Boards and Over Yonder and some of the restaurants down here, and Pieville, and like partnering with them, and like coming together and being able to do this. And even though like we didn't do anything actually with the stable and jalapenos, like we still had like hot conversations, and like we still had talks, and like making sure that everyone was okay, and kind of visiting in on each other and checking in on each other. So there was the camaraderie that kind of came together in that time. And so just the people here and the culture that the shop owners have is really great. But then going back to like the people and how they want to support local, and they want to take care of you, and they want to have those relationships with you, is just really meaningful. And all the boards and city council and the mayor, like they're all doing a phenomenal job as well of like trying to create growth, but doing it in a healthy way. Like one of my favorite places in growing up in San Antonio was going to visit Fredericksburg.
Yes.
Love Fredericksburg. Have you been to Fredericksburg?
Yes.
It's such a cute town.
It is.
And like for me, I see Farmersville as like kind of that direction, kind of that small town feel, but has a lot of stuff going on type thing. And so I'm excited. I'm excited for the potential for Farmersville as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's why we're so glad to be a part of Farmersville now,
Me
for
too.
all those same reasons.
Yeah.
Well, Marty, before we hit start, I asked
Yeah.
you to pick a number, and
Yeah.
we went through this whole conversation about what number you were going to pick.
Yeah.
So first, I said don't pick 7. So we took 7 off the table, and that was your favorite
I don't
number.
like 7.
And then you picked 13,
Yeah.
but we talked about 12 because we're 12 stories.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So I'm going to tell you what number 12 was, but
Okay.
I'm going to ask you number 13.
Okay.
And because I think I know the answer to number 12. Number
Okay.
12 was, what has been the most difficult challenge so far in your life?
In my life.
And so would you say it was the pandemic, or was there something bigger?
So I'm going to kind of take a cheap answer out and say it's honestly been that whole transition, and I still feel like I'm somewhat on the end of that from that moment in August, from August 2018 of being let go. Just the emotional burden that it put on and stuff like that, to trying to figure out that transition, to going through that year of just doing the portable side, to coming to the shop, opening up in a pandemic. Like I feel like that moment, as pinnacle and as amazing things that have come out of it, I'm still kind of like, we're still kind of going through that.
Right.
And we're still kind of like going through that, like it's almost been like one of those things, like one thing's kind of dominoed to the other. I'll say this though, is that I feel like since that moment, I've probably grown the most at the same time, and I've probably felt the most I don't know, just really falling into my element. And so almost like cracking a nut and stuff like that, like, and really getting into the to the core of it. Like it's been the most difficult part, but it's also like getting into the meatier part as well. And it's like just really allowing me to become, I guess, the person and the business that we're supposed to be. And so I think that's been the most difficult, but it's also been the most developing as well.
That's awesome. So I'm not going to ask you question 13 that you picked.
Okay, gotcha.
Because you answered 12 perfectly and beautifully.
Okay, cool.
And I love your story so much, Marty. And I have loved coming into your shop from the time I've started coming at the end of last year. And I love seeing what God's doing in your life. And we are here to support you and your
I feel that
family.
already. Yeah.
And so thank you so much for
Thank
agreeing
you.
to sit down
Thank you guys.
and sharing your story.
And thank you for using the space for all the other stories. I can't wait to hear them.
Absolutely.
It's gonna be fun.
It is. It
Yeah.
is. All right. Thank you, Marty.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you for watching Heart of Farmersville. This video series, which is designed to celebrate Farmersville, Texas, is spearheaded by REMAX 3D Real Estate.